But let's start with a topic brought onto our radar last week by an announcement from Eddie Hearn, which is the imminent return of Anthony Joshua. There seems to be so many mixed messages about this situation. Have you got any ideas, Spence, about who Anthony may be fighting?
No ideas on who he will be fighting, but I do believe that he will be fighting this year. There was talk of him fighting November the 15th, which I think would be too soon on the undercard of Eubank Ben. Also, the show that they've got...
Undercard? On
the undercard. So, yeah, we'll get into that. There's also talk of him fighting on December the 13th. That's on the show that Matchroom have out in the States. On the likely one, where I think he will fight, is December the 27th, undercard of Inoue
December the 27th?
December the 27th, right. On the undercard of Inoue versus David and Picasso. That's right. Where I think it will land. And it's on the undercard, yeah. I think it's the first time since he turned pro.
I mean, where are you, Zach, on the Anthony Joshua conversation? I have a great admiration for Anthony Joshua, but I've suggested that this time has been and gone now. He's won his titles, he's banked his money, and perhaps he should sail off into the sunset. When you think of Anthony Joshua as a current boxer, what do you think about when you think about him coming back and returning to the ring?
Yeah, it's obviously been the face of British boxing for a long time now. But as for him to go on to win another world title, he's already boxed Usyk twice.
Yep.
And he's lost to him twice. But it obviously is a massive pull in Joshua. So it'd be good to see him back in the ring.
You know, Alexander Usyk, we don't know what's happening with him. Obviously, it won't be Anthony Joshua, but them titles fragment. Do you think that Joshua has the ability to win a world title again?
I think if he's coming back into boxing, I don't think he'll be just wanting to box on like little titles now. I think he's just going to want to go on to win the massive titles. Obviously,
depends who's matched against him, really. Yeah, it depends. I mean, there's no indication that he can come back and beat Alexander Usyk, because that dance has been danced, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they've got to be careful about who they match him with, and the right opportunity has to come up for him to pick up one of them world titles. Because if you look at some of the younger fighters coming through, you know, you mentioned Moses Atalma, you look at that and you go, like, that wouldn't be the right fight for someone like Anthony Joshua, who's in the twilight of his career. But it depends. He's WBC ranked number 3. I know you've got Agit Caballero, who's the interim champion.
Sure.
So that, you know, that would be again a tough fight. But he's world ranked in all the governing bodies. So we just have to see where the landscape lies.
I mean, what are you hearing? I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of things. I'm hearing he's out in camp with Alexander Usyk.
I'm hearing the same thing.
Well, what's that about?
He's trying to reinvent himself in many ways. And Anthony Joshua's always done that, by the way. He's always travelled around working with different people. He likes to, you know, we saw him
reinvent himself again. How many what's he, Doctor Who?
Yeah, but that's what he's trying to do, though, Simon. I think he's at that stage of his career where he's trying to rediscover a little bit of that confidence. He's gone to Alexander Usyk, where we're hearing reports he's out there training with Usyk and the team, trying to pick up something, trying to rediscover something.
That's very strange, Paul, isn't it?
It is, but it's not unheard of. I've heard of a lot of fighters doing that. You see fighters, obviously, it's the old Rocky movies years ago, but you see a fighter losing to someone, all of a sudden they go in the camp and they start training and do little bits together and become friends or whatever else. I think it'll do Joshua no harm travelling, but as you say, he's a little bit long in the tooth and he's a bit on the back nine rather than the front nine, where that experience would really come into play. But I'm just looking at his record here. He obviously, after the Usyk fight, he'd come back and he had 3 fights and then the Ngannou demolition job.
Well, yeah, Jermaine Franklin, he had Robert Helene, he had Otto Wally, and then he smashed Ngannou, which everyone went hallelujah for, right?
Yeah, but he's obviously not in like the BoxRec rankings to see where he is. But the Dubois fight is a fight where, what you've just said then, Spencer, like, match him right. I felt he was match right with Dubois. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I was wrong on that and I was proved wrong, but I felt like Joshua would have and should have came through that, but he obviously didn't. So therefore, it's back to the drawing board, and where do you go from there? What do you do from there? Does he keep the same team around him? Does he go and find someone new and try and adapt and add to his repertoire already? And this move at Usyk, I don't know what it'll be, but if he's fighting before Christmas, then he needs to get in shape quick, because there's only 8 weeks to go, let's say.
Well, my understanding, he's in camp, he's in shape, and just looking to getting out and get back to winning ways, is my understanding. That's why they're talking about 8-rounders. Yeah. He wants to sort of go under the radar a little bit, and it's difficult for someone like Anthony Joshua because he's such a commercial commodity.
He's always been in shape all the time, hasn't he? Yeah. He always will be in shape. He's never, ever not been...
But it's not about his physical shape, is it? No one's ever questioned his physical state. Zach, when I was talking about Anthony Joshua, and I know that the president of his fan club is here in Spencer, but I talked about the PTSD issue post various fights, whether it be the Alexander Usyk or the Daniel Dubois situation. But prior to Daniel Dubois, I always maintained that I felt that despite the performance against Jermaine Franklin, despite the performance against Robert Helenius, which had been blasted out by Deontay Wilder, and we've seen what Deontay Wilder is now with respect to him, and despite the performance against Otto Wallen, I always felt that there was a likelihood if he got stuck one on him by a live one, he was going to have a challenge with that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree with me?
Yeah, you've seen it in a few fights. Obviously, the Andy Ruiz fight, that's one of the first times when
that's where the damage was done, wasn't it?
And then since then, he's gone a bit gun shy when it does get into a fight. You've seen the Daniel Dubois fight. Obviously, Daniel Dubois is a massive hitter in the heavyweight division, and if he does fight someone like that, it can always come unstuck. There's always that.
But
chance.
ironically, he wasn't gun shy against Daniel Dubois, was he? Because he got knocked out trying to knock Daniel Dubois out.
Yeah.
I think the biggest fight out of there would be him and Fury, really. I think that's the one what everyone wants to see if there was going to go for the biggest money fight.
And if he is going to have that Fury fight, it's a lot better for him to go into it with a win on his record, with another few rounds, just to blow a bit of the cobwebs off to get back in. Yeah. So you're not coming in off.
I agree, and I think that I think the roadmap for Anthony Joshua, if you're looking at, I think at his stage of his career, he's looking at fight by fight, and coming through each fight, because a loss would spell the end of the career. But you're looking at possibly December. Then he was talking about getting out late February, early March, and then the big showdown, obviously, if Fury comes back in the summertime.
It's been gone a long time now, isn't he? I mean, it's been 13 months.
Yeah.
It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think, and I don't think it's unfair to say, a lot of Anthony's challenges are in his mind, in terms of overcoming the thought processes.
I think they're all in his mind.
Well, yeah. Okay, then we'll go for the full hog and say they're all in his mind. Because I remember Shane McGuigan talking about wrapping up a fighter before, and Anthony Joshua walking in before his fight, going, "How do you think I should fight that fight?" And he's about to fight for a world title or fighting at a level, and you're thinking, how can a...
He's always been that way, by the way.
Two-time world champion want to have that question.
That's not just happened. He's always been that way. Even as an amateur, he was that way. He's one of those guys that's like a sponge, and he's always looking... it doesn't make sense in many ways. Not for a fighter when you're going in, especially like when you're on a ring walk and you're asking people, what do you think I should do? It's like, it seems crazy. I think he's always had the physicalities, for sure, but for me, it's the psychological side with Joshua, and that's what he's maybe trying to rediscover going over to Alexander Usyk, if that's where he's at. I suppose the question for you guys is, do you think that he has the capability of picking up a world title again?
To be a three-time world title.
To answer your point on what you just said, I think it's refreshing. He never, ever thinks he's the complete article, because he's not. No one is really, and he always is willing to learn. Can he win another world title? It all depends on the belts. The belts have to be fragmented. He's not going to be Usyk again. And I don't know. It doesn't matter what trainer. I'm not putting him down saying this. It doesn't matter what trainer he goes to, whether he works with Usyk or whatever. I just can't see him beating Usyk in that fight. That's fine. But if the belts are fragmented, there's going to be some.
Could you see him beating Ajay Cabello?
Again, not after his last performance against Dubois, no, but there's other champions out there, though. There's other contenders out there that could fight for a vacant belt that he could certainly manoeuvre his way into to become.
If he was landing on your doorstep, coming to you, for you to guide him and direct him and take him into a different direction, what would you be doing with Anthony Joshua? Would you be saying, look, son, you've had a great career, you've made a fortune of money, you don't need to be doing this? Or would you be saying something different?
I'd have to see what he had left mentally in the gym. You'd have to get a lot of tough sparring. You'd have to see at what his desire level it really is, and whether there was signs of aging in that last fight against Dubois. For me, in the last fight against Dubois, I watched him trying to pull it trigger, and it just wasn't there. I saw him fighting with a little bit of ego, waiting just a little bit too long, and getting beaten to the punch by the younger, hungry fighter who was fighting a bit on nerves at the time. And I felt it was a bit of a recipe for disaster for him, but I did feel like he could have got through that and won that fight. Tactically, I think the team got it wrong. I've said that. I'm not putting them down or having a go at them saying that. I just think tactically they got it wrong on the night. If he had another go at that fight, he probably, with the right changes, I think he's got the beating of him. But it just depends what.
Well, I think they feel that in the camp, don't they, after watching what Alexander Usyk did to Daniel Dubois, they're looking at and thinking, because they got a lot closer to Alexander Usyk than Daniel was gotten against him. And the second fight, Joshua was certainly in that fight, wasn't he? Against. What would you do with him in the gym, Paul?
He's got, listen, there's no secret about him. He works his arse off. He is a grafter. He does work, but it's got to be back to the basics. Just get you fighting again. A bit less on maybe the strength and conditioning, a bit more on the punching, the fighting, the sparring. the actual, you know, again, pads are overrated. Get on out of your bag, get you working, get in the gym, get you sparring, get the right type of sparring, competitive sparring, younger, hungry fighters. See what he's actually got left in there and desire-wise, because he's got an unbelievable life. He's made a lot of money from boxing.
Isn't there an element of an old dog and new trick?
No, but
I'm saying back to basics.
Paul,
old dog, get back to what you know best. Get back to what helped you win all them medals and
the physicalities and that are all there with Anthony Joshua. It's all mental. Like, it's about, you get him in the gym, you know that he works like a dog in the gym. He's that guy. The desire is still there because he does want to become a three-time world champion. I know that for a fact. It's not about the desire or the physicalities. It's all about here. It's the mental side of things. And that's all about believing in your trainer, believing in yourself, the team around you. And I think that's what he's trying to discover right now at this stage, because he knows it's the last roll of the dice.
For me, though, Spence, you don't need this big team. I'm constantly seeing this on telly. I know, totally. I think you need your boxing trainer, you need a good strength and conditioning coach, and you need a few people around you who are close to you, who are friends or family, who are really, really close to you, who are there to help you, and who will tell you what you need, not what you want. And if you have that core group of people, a core small team, then you're going all the way. But realistically, you're in that boxing gym, it's you and your boxing coach. You're in a strength gym, it's you and your strength coach, or your running coach, or whoever's timing you on the runs or swimming or whatever it is you're doing. And you've got a nutritionist there who helps you out. But constantly there's 50 people around them, and I don't know whether they're all right or wrong for them.
What would you do with it, Zach? Well, like, if you was in that Joshua's position right now, you know that it is the last roll of the dice. You're taking it fight by fight. What's the roadmap?
Depends what he wants. If he wants to win the world title, I don't see that in the future. If he wants just massive fights, obviously like with the Shuri fight, then I could see him doing it. But if he keeps changing trainers all the time, you're obviously trying to teach an old dog new tricks, like you said. But I don't know. It's down to him. You don't know what's in his mind, do you? When
we put aside the qualification, we know that Anthony Joshua, if he's going to fight for a world title, he's got to fight someone significant. He's not going to fight another Charles Martin, right? Yeah, that opportunity is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So when we think about it, and we can look at the landscape, whether it's Ajit Kabiel, or whether it's Joe Parker re-engineered, or whether it's whoever we can think of inside the top 5 world heavyweights. Do we honestly, because I don't think he does win another world title, when we get to the bottom line without wanting to denigrate anything he's done, no one hates Anthony Joshua, no one's hating upon Anthony Joshua, everyone admires him. But when we're talking in a conversation about a three-time world champion, does anybody really here, because I don't, and I'll nail my colours to the mast, actually think Anthony's going to win the world title again? A world title again?
Listen, I think it all depends on where these world titles land once they fragment. If you talk about Alexander Usyk, of course, no, I don't. And if you talk about the young... No, but if you
I've just done all that, Spence.
If you talk about the young...
He's going to fight a serious fight.
Who he doesn't beat. I'm saying if you talk about the young guys, I don't know if he'd beat Ajit Kabiel right now. Moses Talma, you wouldn't go near. And these guys are world ranked and we wait for the opportunity. Yeah. I just see it that a title may manifest itself because that's the nature of the beast. That is the business side of things. If if the Tyson Fury fight happens in the summer, they'll strap a world title around that. For one of those titles will fragment and they will.
Well, who would he fight and beat?
Let's look at this factually though.
Yeah.
There's Fabio Wardley has 2 of the interim belts. So if they are fragmented, he's a unified world champion.
Absolutely.
That's the fight.
Yeah.
Now, can Anthony Joshua beat Fabio Wardley? I think he can.
Yeah.
And that's what I do think he can. I'm not saying he will, but I do think he can. If everything's right, I do think he certainly can.
That's interesting. Because I was curious, I was going to put Fabio Wardley into the equation because the big thing about Fabio, and we'll talk about Fabio Wardley in a bit later on.
Has to be Wardley done it because he has the belts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Belts.
And the problem you've got then as well, obviously Wardley being in the same camp.
Exactly.
You know, effectively, because Ben Davison has Wardley, so you go, one of them has to leave the gym. Is that Anthony Joshua's idea? He's over there training in Spain at the moment with Usyk. Is that the long-term goal? Is he looking at... I don't know when the titles like the WBA, WBO, I don't know when they fragment. I think the WBO is next in line. WBC is last.
Oh, it's Wardley next.
So, there will be opportunity for sure.
Interesting. We'll wait and see.